Alright, V'siyata Dishmaya, Chanukah Sameach. I thought it would be interesting to get into a way of looking at Lashon Hara and a connection that we have between Lashon Hara and Chanukah. This is a teaching that's going to be coming from Rav Avraham Tzvi Kluger, Shlita, one of the tzaddikim of our generation in Bet Shemesh, and it's from a book of his called Marpeh Lashon, The Healing Tongue, which is a whole entire book with deep ideas in Chassidut and Kabbalah that come back to the prohibition of speaking negatively about other Jews or groups of Jews. And there's an intro part here. I'm not going to read all of it, but give the gist of it from the Tzvi of Lashon in his Akdama to Emek Davar. And the Netziv, Rav Kluger brings us words from the Netziv, and the Netziv says that just like there would be scientists who go out and do their research and do all different experiments, it would be impossible for anybody in the world, a scientist, to say that they got to the depths of all the wisdoms and everything that there is to know about the world. There's one person that we know that did that in all of history, and that was Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. And he did it by way of the secrets of the Torah, to get into the depths of every single wisdom that was in the world on the side of nature. But if you're not Shlomo HaMelech, if you're not King Solomon, so then it's known that every human being is limited and the world is ginormous, and it's impossible to say that you really got to the depth of every idea. You could have much research, you could have touched on many topics, but to say you know it all, you know the science, it's very, very hard. And even if a person came with a bunch of theories, a few years later, someone will come and learn them in a different way and get rid of those theories and come out with new things. Unless you get down to a law, it's very, very hard to say that you really found something specific. And even if a person finds a law, it's on one topic and it's not on all of science. So too, it's the same thing with coming inside, understanding the nature of the Torah. The Torah is infinite. No matter how much you learn, you won't be able to really, really get it. And to say that you have gone into the depths of the truth of all of the Torah and all facets. So, no matter if that's the case, then why do we even learn? Because we have to try. We have to try our best to get as deep as we can into Torah and to understand these ideas and to bring them down to application in everyday life. But to be certain that I understand the truth and no one else does, that's the intention here of what Rav Kluger is bringing us, this piece from the Tzvi of Lashon, to understand that just like it would be foolish to say that one scientist knows more than all of the rest of scientists that came before him and after him, so too in Torah. The Torah is way more deeper and infinite than science, and to be a person that thinks that I or my rabbi have the truth and no one else does would be foolish. There's many camps in the Torah, there's many camps in Am Yisrael. We're all one, and we all have different paths. But to say that one camp, one path, has everything and knows everything, it would be a big mistake. And obviously, when a person feels that way, that would cause them to feel Elyonut, supremacy, and to talk bad about others, other camps and other opinions. And B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll clarify this idea a little bit more with the help of the words of the tzaddikim, specifically Rav Kluger, and to increase peace in the world, to increase peace between different factions within Am Yisrael, different ways of thinking within Am Yisrael. It's known that the Zohar Kadosh says, Knishta Chada. We need one congregation, one group of 10 men that love each other without machloket, without fighting, and Mashiach would have come already. We're waiting for that over 2,000 years. So here's our part, a little bit, what we can do here from Shar Yichud, from the Gate of Unity, to try to spread some of these lights into the world of B'ezrat Hashem. May they be received and be of use only for benefit, to increase love between the souls of Israel, which will eventually lead to a greater revelation of the oneness of Hashem in the world, B'ezrat Hashem. So the rabbis say in Masechet Arachin, Ma takanato shelo yavo lidei Lashon Hara. What is a thing that a person can do in order to not reach Lashon Hara, to not speak negatively about others? Im talmid chacham hu yasok b'Torah. If the person that's looking for the remedy is a talmid chacham, is a person that has Torah and they know how to learn Torah, the one way to get saved from Lashon Hara, so speaking negatively about another person, is to learn Torah. Shikar mechuvanu al Torah sheba'al peh. The main intention there is Gemara, Mishnayot, Poskim. That's what it means that a person should learn Torah. Because by way of that learning of poskim and shas and everything that goes on in the Gemara, a person is able to merit to a level called dat, consciousness and knowledge, that can hold within it bet afachim, two opposites. And to understand that every single Jew has his own unique path in the Torah, within the 70 faces of the Torah. And there's two sides to a coin. There's more than one side to a coin. עד שלומדים לכבד את הדת החולקת יחד עם הנאמנות להבנה הנראית יותר. Till I get to a point where I learn so much Gemara, I learn so much Talmud, that I'm able to make space for my friend's opinion while holding on to the truth that seems more true to me. There's two different opinions, two ways that you can go about understanding a certain halacha. I don't have to trash you or destroy you as a person or your opinions or your ways that you see the learning in order to really hold on to my side. We see this in our world so much, that in our world it's either you're on this camp or you're in that camp. And they push this so much in the West, specifically in America, that if you like this team, you can't like that team. And if you like this person, you can't like that person. And if you're a Republican, you always have to vote Republican, even if your Republican leader is really a Democrat. It's all such nonsense. There's much more room in the middle to he's right and he's right. The guy that I really like happens to say some things that are wrong, and the person that I don't like actually said some things that were good. That should be where a person's able to express their real opinions and their real truth, because it's impossible to say that every person fits into a box perfectly. Every single one of us has different opinions. And even if we are 90% belonging to one camp or one idea, we have parts of us that understand the other side much more. We have parts that the other side makes more sense to us. And by way of learning Gemara to the point where you get to a level of dat where you can hold two opposites and make space and make room for two opposites while holding on to your own truth. That way you can make a tikkun. That's how to rectify the exact reason that there is Lashon Hara. What is the problem with Lashon Hara? It's a thought that, a mistaken thought that truth only has one side to it. And it's only my truth that's true. That's the root of it all. And B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to understand this now in the connection to Chanukah. The light of the Torah Sheba'al Peh, this light that started to illuminate during the second period temple, the second temple period, in the times of the Chashmonaim, the times of the Tanaim, in the strongest times of the Tanaim. We see that there's a connection between the lighting of the Chanukah that are lit ad shetichle rigel min hashuk. We light these Chanukah until the foot is taken out of the market. Regel min hashuk. That's how to nullify all of the Balei Lashon Hara, the people that speak gossip and speak bad about other people's. And once we get rid of them, meaning we get rid of those actions and they stop doing it, then we'll increase peace in the world. Regel, the halacha of Chanukah, just to break this down for anybody who doesn't understand, the halacha of Chanukah is that we light from Tzet HaKochavim, from when the stars come out, ad shetichle regel min hashuk, until feet stop moving in the market, meaning until everybody's made it back home. Why? That's the time classically back in the days that people were walking home, and people would walk home from the stars coming out until they made it to their home, until the market was done, meaning they would walk in the streets and they would see the Chanukah lit, and that's how you publicize the miracle of Chanukah. Nowadays, obviously with days being longer and electricity and cars and everything, people are out much later. These times have kind of been stretched and expanded, but that's still what's written in the halacha. So that's the pshat of it. That's the simple understanding, that you should light your Chanukah in the times that people are walking outside. But if we look at the words that were used to explain that situation, we get a lot more depth. Regel is also from like the word meragel, to spy, to bring a report, to bring back news and juice about another person. So ad shetichle regel min hashuk, we want to light the Chanukah until the gossip is taken out of the shuk. Out of the shuk is what's called in Kabbalistic terms, Hasidic terms, the place of the chitzoniyut, the place of externalities, of multiplicity. That we don't want there to be multiplicity. We don't want there to be a world where we see everything as separate. We want to get back to a place of unity. We want to understand everything is one and coming back to Hashem. So this halacha that we have to light the Chanukah until regel, until gossip will be taken out of the shuk, out of the place of pirud, of externalities, of multiplicity, and we'll all come back to feeling one, where most of us don't talk bad about ourselves. Healthy people, at least, they don't talk bad about themselves. They don't go around gossiping about all of their downfalls and the things that they don't like about themselves. So too, you want to see your fellow as yourself. You don't want to be able to talk bad about them. Tehillim, it says in Psalm 15, Lo ragal al lishono. He doesn't have gossip on his tongue. That's what we want. Ad shetichlei regel min hashuk, that there wouldn't be any bad talking in the public places, in between the souls. We see each other as one. And it's explained there that the light of the sanctity of Torah Shabbat Peh, the Talmud and the Gemara and the oral Torah, it splits out and beams out of the Chanukah. And that light that's coming out of the Torah Shabbat Peh, that comes out of the Chanukah, has the ability to nullify and get rid of all of the machloket and the Lashon hara and the rechilut, the gossip that people would speak about each other. We have to understand them a little bit more. What is the connection between these two? We're still introducing these ideas. In order to do that, we'll get into the secret of what's called the Dreidle, the sevivon. It's known on Chanukah, we spin these tops that have the letters on them. Nes gadol haya sham. Or Nes gadol haya po. Depends which Dreidle you have. There was a big miracle happened there, a big miracle happened here. And we spin these dreidels on Chanukah. But now let's see how Rav Kluger brings us in with the help of Reb Nachman of Breslov into this idea. So we have this minhag to spin it, and there's many books that talk about this. The Bnei Yissaschar has a whole entire ma'amarim on this. Reb Nachman has many tzaddikim talked about this idea of the dreidel, which is classically just this little spinning top. How could it have so much room in the Torah? Because everything has room in the Torah. Everything is a way to serve Hashem. And there's those that explain this dreidel that the whole entire world is this aspect of galgal chozer, of a cycle, of a rotation. But the world is just events that keep happening again and again, and what happens now will happen later, and what's up now will come down later. And everything in the world is just in a cycle going around, and everything flips. What's down now will be up, what's up will be down. Like the Rabbi said in Pesachim, in the Gemara, Elyonim lemata v'tachtonim lema'ala. What's up will be down, and what's down will be up. Why? Because at the root, everything is just one. Everything is one. Everything is rooted in a holy place. Let's get in a little bit to the words of Reb Nachman. He says that the whole entire world is this aspect of a rotating cycle that we call a dreidel. Everything comes back. A person flips from an angel to a man to an angel, from a head to a foot, from a foot to a head. So too, the rest of the world is also in the same aspect. Everything, how you see it now, will come back again in the exact opposite. What's up will be down, what's down will be up. Because in the root, everything is one, and everything's included in the root. There's nivdalim, what's called separate beings, like angels, that they're completely separate from physicality. And then there's also galgalim, there's planets and stars, that they also have physicality, but their physicality, their materialism is very pure, very fine. It's known that some planets are just gas, it's just water. It's not the rock, it's not like this world. And then we have this world, this low world which is completely materialistic. And you have these three levels, right? The angels have no physicality. The stars have a little bit of physicality, but it's much finer. And then this world, which is completely physical. All three of them are rooted in one root, and in the root it's all one. And each one had a different role that it has to play when it comes down to this world. And therefore, the world is this aspect of just this cycle, this circle that just keeps going around and around. That now this thing is, so to say, a head. It's a supernal idea, it's a lofty idea. But as that ball turns and rolls, then it's going to end up being a foot. It's going to end up being a low idea. And so on and so forth. Man becomes angel, angel becomes man. Like we said, that once there was angels that got sent down to the earth, and they got so invested into this food and the physicality of this world that it took them hundreds and hundreds of years to be able to separate themselves from the physicality down here. And there's people like Moshe Rabbeinu that went up to the heavens for 40 days, 40 nights and didn't eat bread, water, completely an angelic experience. Because this whole entire world is the aspect of the dreidel, that everything just spins around and goes around. Because everything is one. Like the dreidel that just spins on one route, and up above there's one pole that you spin it from. There's different sides, right? And this time it's going to land on Hey, next time it will land on Gimel, but it's all one. And this is why on Chanukah we play with the dreidel, says Reb Nachman. Ki Chanukah ubchinat Beit HaMikdash. Chanukah is the aspect of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple in Jerusalem. And the main aspect of the Beit HaMikdash was this aspect of Galgal Chozer. The fact that Elyonim lemata v'tachtonim lemala, that the supernal forces would come down, and us bringing all of the inanimate objects, the water, the wine, the plants, the animals, ourselves, and doing tshuva, and then we ascend up above. Because Hashem Yitbarach brought His Shekhinah down inside the Beit HaMikdash. Hashem did dwell and bring His presence inside the Beit HaMikdash. That's the aspect of Elyonim lemata, that the up, what's up will come down. So too, Tzurad Mishkana, it says that the form of the Mishkan was impressed up above as well. There was an impression of what was down here up above. And that's the aspect of Tachtonim Lemala. And this is all the aspect of the dreidel that just spins around and flips, and every time it's a different thing. Because if a person were really to look into this and try to understand, how is it that God, who is completely infinite, the heavens can't even contain Him, but this building down in Jerusalem was able to? And we know the fact that Hashem did dwell in Jerusalem. Hashem did dwell there. And Hashem can fit Himself, whatever that means, into whatever space He desires. And us too, we also found our way, how as creatures, as low creatures, a cow, some frankincense, a person, we also make an impression up above. The Beit HaMikdash was this place that taught us that these worlds connect, that there is unity between everything. That was a place that we could get this lesson from. So to say, Reb Nachman's coming to say that the Beit HaMikdash and the dreidel is one idea. It's one idea. It's known also that the dreidel that says Nes Gadol Hayasham is Gematria Mashiach. Important idea. And this is the aspect of Geulah. Because the main aspect of Geulah is this, what we're saying, that everything just rotates and comes back. What's up comes down, and what's down comes up. Which is again the idea, what we learned from the Beit HaMikdash. So it's important to know, what is a dreidel? A dreidel can teach us so much. Teach us the secrets of life. And on Chanukah, Matityahu, the Chashmonaim and his children, there's one family in Israel. And they went out to fight face to face against evil, against the biggest army. They put themselves in great danger. Mamash, practically speaking, they put themselves in danger. And that's how the miracle happened, by way of them putting themselves there. And the dreidel, we spin it from the top, right? By the way, to compare this, like the Bnei Yissaschar says, with the Rashanim, the groggers that we have on Purim, where we spin them from the bottom. And on Purim, we spin them from the bottom, and the top part spins. We hold on the bottom. On Chanukah, we spin it from the top. In Purim, it's physical, they came for our bodies, so the handle is down here. And on Chanukah, everything was spiritual, it's coming from up on top. And when a person, this teaches us that when a person sees that he's the one that's making everything happen, that he's the one that is causing things to go right or wrong in this world, that I'm the one in charge, you have to understand and believe at that point that everything's happening from sivuvim milemala, that everything's being rotated from up on top. And there's a whole entire process that's happening right now in the heavenly hands, and there's a process that's getting unfolded. And it seems like I'm the one doing it, but I have to know and believe and trust that really everything is a divine process happening from above. The whole entire creation itself is circling and always flipping and revolving There's so much going on. Every single facet of this world is affected by the smallest things. Heavens and earth. And whatever was in the beginning just as a belief, as a emunah, after a while it starts to illuminate inside your sechel, and it becomes much more understood, much more grasped. This is Likutei Moharan says, Rabbi Nachman says, I think it's in Tzadik Aleph in the 91st teaching, that there's a different types of emunah. There's emunah that's just in the heart, but the main aspect of emunah is emunah that spreads out into the whole entire body. And he says, this is what the Arizal says, that when a person says Netilat Yadayim, they wash their hands for bread, they have to lift up their hands in front of their head, and from then, by way of that act, and they believe that they're receiving Kedusha, sanctity into their hands, that's how the sanctity comes down. And you see that there's a level of emunah that needs to come inside your hands, that even your hands need to be lifted up. And whoever has emunah, the emunah comes into the mind. And whoever holds on even more to that emunah, it comes deeper into the mind. And we know that the mind is connected to the rest of the body. And from there it spreads out to every single aspect of you, every single part. The more you get into emunah, the greater your emunah is. And the more it expands and spreads out into your whole entire body. Important thing to know. So too when it comes to emunah between Ben Adam Lamakom, between us and God, and also so too in all of the rulings of Ben Adam L'Chavero, between man and his fellow man, societal rules. Because each one of our souls is attached to a very lofty supernal place up above. Adam Elyon. A person is called Adam. Why? Adam Elyon. I will appear, I will emulate what is above, because we're rooted up above. Why does a person have an ego? Because God has an ego, because God is all one. How could you ever feel like you did anything in this world? Because you're rooted in God that does everything in the world. We just can't make the mistake of thinking of that. We can't always understand what's going on. We can't always understand these connections between how we are connected to God and how we are all as souls connected together in a higher place. And it's sometimes that a Jew doesn't even understand himself. It takes time for him to process the things that he's going through, the things that he's thinking about, dealing with, everything that's going on. It takes time to realize that, oh, God is making something happen here. There's something unfolding that's above me. I'm getting spinned from up above. Everything's happening from Hashem, the master of the whole entire world, who's ruling over the world and leading the world and watching over every single facet with chesed and rachamim, with loving kindness and immense mercy. Like it came up in the first thought, so to say, the primordial thought, to open up these little gateways of light in all of the concealed places. There's this, again, there's this rotation, there's this constant renewal of what's up goes down, what's down goes up. And everything we're saying mainly has to come back to this idea of Lashon HaRa. Minhago shel olam, right? The way of the world, when there's a machloket, when there's disagreements in the world, that in the beginning, every single side of the disagreement is completely certain on the righteousness and the justice that's on their path. That my path is the truth, that I know what I'm doing, I have proof, I can bring you sources, everything you want. I can show you how I have the truth on my side. You're not even willing to think for a second that maybe the other person that's arguing with you also has all the same to back his side. And specifically when a person starts to speak Lashon HaRa about another person, and he has the ability to speak well, with clarity, with influence in his speech, and he's able to convince the people that he's speaking Lashon HaRa to about all the negative things about the person he's speaking Lashon HaRa about. And the other side is not like him. The other person he's speaking about doesn't know. He doesn't have all of the cunning tongue, and he's not able to convince people so well. So then, in this argument, say, it must be that he's right because I don't know how to express myself. I don't know how to explain myself in all of my side. And then the person submits himself and feels down. And then the first person now has the upper hand and now wants to feel prideful and overcome the other. And see, I told you, I'm right. This is a root of a lot of problems. And a person is not willing to see the other side. Not willing to make room for another person. They're so right, and it must be that I'm right. And if the other person can't explain themselves, then here I proved you. You don't have proof. You can't even say it. It's a big mistake. הן יחד עם הדעות המתערבבים, מידות וחיש מהר נפרדים הלבבות. You bring all of the opinions that get mixed inside of the negative character traits, and quickly we have a separation of souls. Very quickly there's now a pirud, there's now separation, which is a horrible thing. That's from Torah learning, from opinions in Avodat Hashem. Now two people are not connected. Hashem loves it from Ribuya Pratim Megim Lachduta Pshuta. From the mass details we get to the simple oneness. Reb Nachman teaches us that the whole goal is that when many rabbis have come together and agree, that's more important to Hashem than even one person saying the truth and him being right. Like the story in the Gemara, one rabbi started to talk. He wanted to prove his point. He said, if I'm right, 4 different stages. In the end, he got to the point of saying, if I'm right, a voice of heaven will come out and say that I'm right. And it did, and the rabbi still didn't even agree with him. Because the truth is, Hashem prefers an halacha, prefers a Torah opinion that came from 60, 70 people that are different individuals, rooted in one unity, saying the same thing. So we can't come to a point where we cause so much separation. The truth is, as time passes, one side stops to fight in the machloket, and they calm down. And now the righteousness of the side of the person that was being spoken negatively about starts to show up, starts to come up to light. Once the one person that was yapping and talking so bad actually starts being quiet and stops fighting, all of a sudden the good points and the righteousness on the other side can start to rise. This is the secret of what's called kushtakai. It says in the Gemara, in Masechet Shabbat, that truth is established. That truth will always persevere. Truth will always stay standing upright. Meaning, emet, truth, will always be there. And the truth, in the beginning, people don't jump on it. People are not so interested. It's already decreed from the beginning that emet ye ne'ederet, that the truth will be, you find it in small pockets throughout the world. אך גלגל הוא שחוזר בעולם ולימים תצא האמת לאור העולם. The truth is, though, that the whole world is a cycle. And one time it will come out that the truth will be revealed in the world. And the opinion of the second side, of the other side, will also be heard by all of those other people that opposed it at the beginning. And we see this many times, that there was revolutionaries in our world that revealed beautiful ideas, and at the time where they were there, they weren't so accepted. People spoke bad about them, and after years we see here that they're holding things together, that they were the truth, that they had the truth. Maybe it wasn't the time at the time. Hashem has many reasons why there would be machloket in the world and covering up the truth in the world, and why it seems that the tzaddikim have so much opposition between each other and the camps. But one thing we have to know, there's always room for another opinion, and it can't be that only I have the truth. It cannot be. It cannot be. Again, everything we're saying is within the realm and the parameter of halacha and Torah. We're not saying now a person can come out of nowhere, Kabbalah Center, all these different nonsense groups that don't even keep halacha, don't even keep the principles of the Torah, believe in the 13 principles of faith, and then they come and make ideas. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people that are keeping halacha, they have yirat shamayim, they're doing everything that the Torah says, they just see it differently than you. And they have a masorah, they have what to lean on, they have different opinions. We have to know that we can't do this. We can't get into a situation like this where we're writing off another person. Zat Hashem, we'll continue a little bit. There's a letter from Reb Elimelech of Lezhensk, the Noam Elimelech, and he writes about the idea of machloket between, machloket against the tzaddikim of the generations. That when you, let's say there's one tzaddik in our generation were to say something, and a person wants to prove that they're wrong. So they bring from a previous generation, and they say, here, you see, 100 years ago, this rabbi said like this. And we believe in previous rabbis, right? I say, I believe them because they were on a level of Ruach HaKodesh, they had high levels of prophecy, they had revelations to them, they had levels of holiness we don't have in our generation right now. Now it's impossible to get to those levels, it's impossible to be able to say things like this, it's impossible to do that. And every single generation they did this. Every single generation did the same thing. And they came and they testified, Ahuvi, Achi, my beloved brother, יהיה לבך בטוח כי גם בימי קודש הקדוש האריזל היו גם כן מתקוטטים עמו. The Noam Elimelech writes there, is the son of the Noam Elimelech, he writes to him, he says, my beloved brother, no, your heart should be certain that even in the days of the Ari HaKadosh here in Tzfat 500 years ago, they were fighting with him. They had machloket against him. והייתי רוצה לגלה לך כמה חידושים שסיפר אדוני מורי ורבי. I want to tell you a few of the different chidushim and novel ideas and secrets that my Rebbe taught me, and he got from the tzaddikim. רק ששמעתי פירוש על פסוק אחד מכבוד אדוני אבי מורי ורבי ונאו יאיר ובשביל זה מנעתי את עצמי. I heard one פירוש from my father, and because of that I prevented myself. וכך אמר אדוני אבי מורי ורבי. This is what my father said. There's a pasuk, דור לדור ישבח מעשיך. Generations to generation, they shall praise your works and your actions, Hashem. It's taught in the Gemara and Kiddushin until the son of Eli didn't set, Shmuel's didn't rise. Meaning, there was a certain prophet at a time named Eli. Until he wasn't the prophet, the next prophet couldn't rise. Meaning, there's a changing of the guards. It goes on, so on and so on. The one sun has to set for the next sun to rise. רק שאין מאמינים רק מי שיש לו נשמה קדושה ולא תנפע בעבירות. Every generation has its leaders, has its tzaddikim, but we can only trust and believe in a tzaddik that he's not filled with the filth of all of the sins. הגם שמביאים להם ראיה מן הצדיקים ומדורות הקודמנים, אומרים בזה לשון, אנו מאמינים בחכמים קודמים שהיה להם מדרגות רוח הקודש, אבל עתה בדור הזה בלתי אפשרי לעשות זאת. וכן בכל דור ודור אמורים כך, כמו שמצינו בשאול המלך עליו השלום, כידוע, אהובי אחי, יהיה לבך בטוח, כי גם בימי הקדוש הארי, saying everything we said before. Essentially, what's דור לדור ישבח מעשיך? דור, a generation that's now. That they admit, they admit about themselves that the previous generations before them, they had a high level, they were doing holy things, they were on a much higher level. That's Yishabach Ma'asecha. They will praise your actions. That they admit and they praise and they give gratitude and recognition that Hashem gave lights to these tzaddikim, but not in this generation. Meaning, Gidolim HaTzaddikim b'mitatam yoter b'chayim. Tzaddikim, it's known, we have a teaching that the tzaddikim are greater in their death than when they were alive. Ki b'chayim hayu mikot kedimim imam. In their lifetime, people fought them. In their lifetime, people didn't believe them. And after they died, everybody wants to admit, everyone wants to praise, everyone wants to say, yeah, for sure he had levels. And from that, I stopped from telling you. So here you have the son of the Noam Elimelech, of Elimelech of the Gens, writing a letter saying, I would tell you from the chidushim of my father, but he's still alive. I would give you the deepest stories you could ever soak up, but the nature of the world is you're going to have a problem with him because he's from this generation. We have to know this. Every generation has their leader. One of the sins that they say the elders of Yeshua's generation was that they didn't respect Yoshua, as Moshe, the second Moshe Rabbeinu died, the Mashiach, the king, the leader of Am Yisrael, became Yoshua. Yoshua now is on the level of Moshe relative to the generation. It doesn't matter that Moshe was there before. For sure Moshe was on a higher level. For sure Moshe was higher and holier. It doesn't matter. If Moshe was the head of Am Yisrael and now he has passed away, there is a new head. And this is in every single generation. There will never ever be a reality that we don't have a leader in our generation. There will never be a generation that Hashem leaves us as orphans without leaders, without tzaddikim leading us. It's just the reality is that we have no problem accepting the previous generations and saying how holy they are. We have a problem accepting what's going on right now in our generation. In Likutei Halachot, Rabbi Natan speaks about this even more. He says, what is the main thing that the evil inclination tries to intensify itself with every single generation? To hide and conceal the specific holiest person of that generation specifically. They don't want you to connect to the person that's alive, walking amongst the world right now, like you, doing holy things. That's the biggest challenge, because if you connect to that person, you have it all. Like we see, it's practically, the main disagreements are on the tzaddik of that generation. And afterwards, when days pass, everybody wants to admit. We see this with Reb Nachman. Reb Nachman in his generation was completely ridiculed and chased after and not respected. Died at 38 years old. And here we are, 215 years later, learning his Torah. And now nearly anybody that wants to connect is getting a little bit of the lights of Reb Nachman. Baal Shem Tov, the same thing. The Baal HaTanya, the same thing. Throughout the generations, it's been this way. Moshe Rabbeinu was the same thing. Korach, 250 of the leaders of the people of Israel, saw the biggest miracles that Moshe did, and they still went after him. They say, for sure he's a tzaddik. I'm not saying he's not holy, but, I don't agree with him. In the times of the Arizal, הייתה מחלוקת גדולה על הארי. There was a great מחלוקת against the Ari. ולא רצו להודות שימצא באותו הדור חידוש כזה. They couldn't believe that in that generation there was such a person, that he had Ruach Kadosh, and on that level, like it's written in the writings of the Ari. ואחר כך בכמה דורות נתקבל האריזל. After that, for generations, the Arizal has been accepted. והכל מודים שהיה חידוש נפלא, איש אלוקי. Everybody knows that he was a chidush, he was a novel soul that came down to this world. Power, godly person. It's known about the Arizal that he could understand the birds, he could understand the candles, he could understand everything. He could read a person's forehead. He could tell you what previous reincarnations you had. The most crazy things, 500 years ago. They say that he had the level of Tanaim and Amoraim. He had levels of the rabbis 2,000 years ago in the times of the temple. No one could understand it. No one could accept it. It's told that when he walked into the Arizal, walked here to Tzfat, there was a meal going on. The Arizal walked into the room, and everybody was like startled. They didn't know who it was, and the elders of Tzfat didn't want to stand up when he walked in. He was a young Rebbe, also died before 40 years old. And after that meal, after a few weeks of the Arizal being here, the elders that were at that table, 60, 70, 80 years old, came to ask the Arizal to be students of his. They had enough humility to accept it in their own generation, but it didn't start that way. So too, חלקו על הצדיקים האחרים שבדורות HaRav. Right? They disagree with the tzaddikim that came afterwards and the generations afterwards. עד שסמוך לימינו היה בעל שם טוב ז"ל שהיה אור נפלא מאוד. Until close to our days, Rabbi Natan says that we have the Baal Shem Tov, which is also a wonderful, powerful light. והיה עליו מחלוקת גדול, and there was huge disagreements against the Baal Shem Tov. In the days of the Baal Shem Tov, there was all the people in the days of the Baal Shem Tov, everybody that disagreed with the Arizal admitted to the Arizal. They finally accepted the Arizal. Interesting thing. וחלקו על הבעל שם טוב. And they had disagreement with the Baal Shem Tov. וכן הוא בכל דור ודור. So too in every single generation. Meaning there's someone in our generation alive right now that everybody has a problem with, and that because they have a problem with him, they're able to accept the tzaddikim from the previous generations. So we have to explain this in what the rabbi said in Masechet Archin. Rav Kluger continues and said, what we started in the beginning, right? That if the person's a Talmid Chacham and how can he save himself from Lashon Hara? He should learn Torah Sheba'al Peh. He should learn Torah. Torah Sheba'al Peh, that beyond the simple understanding of these words, that by way of learning Torah, we understand the other side, we can make room for two different opinions. Od yesh lavin, we also have to understand, shelinyan chilukei deot, when it comes to differences of opinions between the Tanaim that are said in the Gemara itself. Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. It says there, these and these are the words of a living God. Af shekol tzad mechuyav linog ke'avanat atzmo. You had Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, for example. We agree and we're taught that both sides are true. Both sides, that's the truth of what it is. But Beit Hillel stayed true to what he learned in Beit Hillel and all of his students, and Beit Shammai did whatever they learned in Beit Shammai's, and they stayed true to that. Meaning, we're both saying a godly thing, but I stay true to what I know. So too, when it comes to differences of opinions that will cause us to speak bad about another person. There you also, the Talmid Chacham also has to believe that he has the truth, and that the person that he's disagreeing with also has the truth. Even though I don't understand it the way he's saying it, that is also the truth. And after a while, after time passes, the beauty and the grace and the inner light of what my friend was saying that I couldn't understand and I was disagreeing with at the time will be revealed to me. Why? Galgal chozer ba'olam. The world is in a cycle. And what I thought I understood and I was so certain about, a few days later I might have a lot of questions, and my friend's opinion is much more clear to me. And this is much more apparent in our times, in our days. When we have all of these different communities, may Hashem speedily and gather all of the exiles from the four corners of the world, every single people, every single Jew that's been in Galut, in exile, Iraq, Syria, Ashkenaz, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Sfarad, Mizrachim, Moroccaim, Yerushalmim, wherever you've been, you experienced exile in different places, and you have a way of thinking, you have your minhagim, you have your Beit Midrash, you have your Rabbanim and your Tzadikim. All of the rivers, they lead to the sea. What's the sea? Yamash al-Torah. The sea, the ocean, the sea of wisdom, the sea of the Torah. There's those that learn in Bikiyut, they cover ground and they just want to learn page by page, page to page, and keep going. There's those that learn in Iyun, they go deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's those that are in Charifut, that are in spiciness and quickness and sharpness, and really getting to very, very, very deep understandings and halachot and psikat halacha. There's different ways, there's different people, there's different camps. No matter what, we all have to understand this secret, this deep, deep secret of Galgal Chozer Ba'olam. There's this rotation, there's this cycle in the world. How every single path, no matter what it is, my path or the friend's path or the others, anytime it's within halacha and its ways of leadership in this world and how to behave in this world, it has a root. There is a tradition. It has a place it came from. And even more so, Rav Kluger is telling us that there's people, right, nowadays specifically, we have phones, we have smartphones. Of course, everyone check their halachic source of how to go about having a smartphone and the ways and the fences that you can do to protect yourself. But by way of these smartphones and by way of the internet, we're all able to get to tons of different holy writings and to all different opinions and sources from the beginning of times to the most modern contemporary poskim and opinions in Torah. This is also an idea of Galgal Chozer Ba'olam, of the world being in constant rotation. What was up comes down. To drill within the depths, the inner chambers of the Beit Midrash, the emunah and the holiness of the Torah of every single Jew. That even that appears as if it's, he's making a mistake in the way that he's making decisions in the life. I can find for him and his opinion something. A Jew says something, right? And you don't know, where is it rooted, where is this, or you see someone doing something, you can't really talk about it. But in our generation, you could look up any opinion, and you could find an opinion that backs that action. You can find an opinion that backs it. It's known. Sha'arim ha'mitzuim b'halacha. There's many measures, many gates in halacha. Some person, for example, halacha lechatchila, you're not meant to eat before praying. Before you pray, when you wake up in the morning, you should only pray to God and not to do anything else, not to talk, not to eat. But if a person needs, they wake up weak and they don't have the strength, they need a coffee, they need a banana, they need something to pick them up, it's permissible. So what that the first halacha says you're not meant to do it? Read a few more lines in Shulchan Aruch, you'll see that it's completely permissible for a person that needs. Everybody needs to look at the other, and now in our generation specifically, know, as long as they're keeping halacha and they're trying their best to be connected to Hashem, there's for sure a root, and there's for sure a posek, a opinion out there that can back it. And from this, when the Talmid Chacham starts to learn the poskim and starts to learn Gemara, and he starts to learn now that I have to be able to respect and honor every single Jew as he is, as God made him, kasher asahu Elohim, as God made him, exactly as God made him. And I'm not going to speak bad about anybody else, because I know this world is a world of rotation. What's up now is going to be down, and what's down is going to be up. I don't want to speak about anybody else. I don't want to speak about other opinions, because the cycle of the world is that it's going to come back on me too. We also have to understand the instruction of our rabbis when it says Yasok b'Torah, right? So there they said they should learn Torah. The main classic way of understanding it, they should learn Poskim, Gemara, Mishnah, the revealed Torah, which has many opinions. But what about Torah Tasod? What about the secret Torahs? Torah of Kabbalah? That's the main aspect, by the way, of Torah Sheba'al Peh, that even though it's not Torah Shebichtav, all the Kabbalah is also oral Torah. It is really the goal of all of the oral Torah. And in Kabbalah, it's the number one place to clarify that even things that seem the most simple, the most worthless, not so necessarily significant, they also have a very lofty and exalted root up above. Like saying korbanot before you pray. It's like saying Kriyat Shema Shal Hamita. These things are extremely deep. There's many secrets inside of there. And it's just a simple thing. What are you saying? A few words? No. It changes the whole entire world. And there's specifically in places in halacha that it appears in the revealed halacha some of the most challenging things to understand, and they really take you back, that the way that we even keep it, the way that they even exist, is only by way of emunat hachamim, only by way of the fact that we believe in the sages without any questions. We do what they told us, we do what they laid out for us, the way to approach Torah and mitzvot. But in Galut, now we have this revelation of the Zohar and of the writings of the Arizal. And from within the Kabbalah, now we start to understand that some of the most simple things in halacha that we didn't really understand and we didn't have any basis for, through the Kabbalah we see how they're the deepest, most important ideas standing at the heights of the world. And all of that is also included in Galgal Chozer Ba'olam. That there are certain things said in the Gemara, said by Chazal, that how in the world would we ever make sense of that? Came the Ari, came the Zohar, and showed us exactly what it was said there and what it meant and how much importance it brought to our lives. Like the Gra says, the Vilna Gaon says on Mishle, that when you understand a secret completely, then you have revelations of different things, you'll have joy that you will renew that joy, and you'll get more joy by way of the pshat, by way of the simple understanding. When you understand the sod, the secret, you'll see how the pshat, the simple understanding, the halacha, the revealed Torah, was proper, was true, and then you'll be even more happy on the pshat, that the pshat got even more solidified than previous days. So Vilna Gaon's telling you, you're going to learn Torah, you come across an idea in halacha. And once you understand it, great, it's going to be beautiful. You're going to be happy, you're going to have a lot of joy that you understood that Torah. And then when you learn the secrets behind it, you're going to see how much more it was true, how much more it was proper, and how much more there was hidden inside of it. And you get even higher levels of joy. A page and a half and we're done with this learning. This is the secret of, Rav Kluger says, the secret of the Ramchal, of Moshe Chaim Lutzato, being buried next to Rabbi Akiva. The soul of the Ramchal, it's known that he has many, many deep teachings in Torah Tasod, in the teachings of Kabbalah. And it's known how much he talks about all the different revelations that he got. Whoever doesn't know, the Ramchal, by the time he was a teenager, there was no one in Italy that could teach him Torah. He outgrew everybody, to the point that his Rebbe, Moshe David Vale, became his student. His Rebbe became his student. That's how out of this world the Ramchal was, and he was getting downloads from up above. On the other side, everybody was chasing him. He had machlokat everywhere he went. Everybody was after him. Even his own rabbis came against him. And only after a while, after time, after generations, is after he passed away. Again, this is another person that we're mentioning that passed away before the age of 40. That only after generations, people came back and gave the stamp of approval to the Ramchal. The Magid of Mezrich, the Gaon Mivilna, holy tzaddikim, and how they talked about him, how they talked about the Ramchal. It's known, the Vilna Gaon says that if they're in the same generation, he would strap his boots and walk all the way to Italy to meet him. From Vilna, all the way he would go to Italy just to meet him. And only because of these tzaddikim, right, the Magid coming out of the Baal Shem Tov's camp and the Vilna Gaon coming out of the Litva camp, only because of them, we could go back now and the Ramchal is taught in every single yeshiva in Am Yisrael. How? Because afterwards, Galgal Chozer Ba'olam, the world rotates, things change. In his generation, they hated him and they came against him. Later on, he's going to become one of the pillars of teaching and education in Israel. This is all the same secret. Galgal Chozer Ba'olam. And you see this pele. Where is the Ramchal buried in the end? They say, next to Rabbi Akiva in the city of Tiberia. Because Rabbi Akiva was the root of all of Torah Shebal Peh. He was the root of all of the oral Torah. And from the heavens they made it a cause that this would be the burial place for these two people. To show you that Tikkun Chet Lashon Hara Shel Talmidei Chachamim Shenasa L'Yedei Esek B'Pnimiyut HaTorah. To teach you that, right, Rabbi Akiva's students, 24,000 students died, and that was all in the revealed Torah. And the Chet, the sin of Lashon HaRav, Talmidei Chachamim, of people that know Torah but they don't accept the other opinion and they don't make room for the other opinion, that sin gets rectified by way of learning the inner aspects of the Torah, which is one idea in the secret, it's unified secret of Torah Shebal Peh, the revealed, the oral Torah. That once it gets clarified and once it gets explained, then there's a revelation of Galgal Chozer Ba'olam. This time the halacha is like this, and it's known. Whoever learned the Gemara, you could go through one page of Gemara, it'd take you a week and a half to learn the page, and literally every 3 words is an opinion going on. Say like this, but what about that? Okay, now let's build on that. And you build on it for 2 lines, and then that gets destroyed, and you have to go back to the original opinion. Then you build on that for a while, and then you reintroduce back to the other opinion. And you see that it's just this constant progress of what's up now will go down, and what's down will go up. And that teaches you how to respect everybody. Because it might be that you're right now, but the time's going to come where you're wrong. So don't speak bad about who's wrong now, because when the time comes, he might speak bad about you. It's not what we want in this world. We want a world of rectification. Whoever looks inside the deeps of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah, right, which is again, when we were told, how do you fix Lashon Hara? Learn Torah. Which Torah? Torah Shebal Peh, which is the written, the oral Torah of all the halachot and all the differences of opinions. And the main aspect of that, the depth and the essence of Torah Shebal Peh, is the secrets of the Torah. As soon as you get into there, you'll see, when you learn it in a serious way, and you take it very seriously, properly, you put your all into it and it means the world to you, your heart gets filled with humility. If you really, really start to learn Kabbalah and Chassidut, you have to become more humble. It's the outcome of the kind of Torah that you're learning. You understand how much you don't know, how many secrets there are in the Torah that you'll never understand, you'll never grasp. What is the sanctity of every single soul of Am Yisrael? And you start to be able to appreciate and give room that Minhag Yisrael, Torah, that some of the customs that we have in Am Yisrael are Torah, meaning they're as important as halacha. They're as important as the commandments inside the Torah. So too, you realize how many worlds, spiritual worlds, are dependent on the smallest action of the most simple Jew. Even when we're talking about custom, even when we're talking about mundane things. For example, Rabbi Nachman says, when a Jew twists his peyot, there's worlds and worlds and worlds in heaven that are being turned around. This is a minhag. There's no commandment to do this. Even on a custom, that has so much of an effect. True. This is what happens when you start to learn Kabbalah and Chassidut. A person, imayu mafchim et adam, Hasidic books teachings, if they could flip a person to see that his eyes should be able to see inside his inner world, you would see that in every single vein, every sinew, every single ligament, there's thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions of worlds dependent on it. ובהסתכלות גבוהה כזו בא היהודי להרהורי תשובה על אשר דיבר בגנות ישראל חברו. When you start to get inside these Torahs and you realize that if every single Jew just moves a simple finger, there's worlds and worlds that get shaken by that. So then you start to do tshuva on any bad that you might have said about your friend. And now, by yourself, you're doing what the rabbis taught us in Pirkei Avot and the ethics of our fathers. Al tiyeh baz l'chol adam. Don't look down on people. Don't see people as cheap. And kol Yehudi hu sod. Every single Jew is a secret. Umi yu la'asok binyana lachavot alav de'ah be'ofen ha'mevatel et mekomo. Who in the world has the right to go and to make a deal out of another person's world and experience and to express an opinion that could nullify him from where he's at? En lecha tshuva gedola mizo. There's no greater tshuva than a person that comes back and says, there's room for you in this world. I was mistaken. You are another revelation of God in this world. You are divrei Elokim chaim. You have a Torah that I don't have, that I'll never have, that I'll never understand. You cause worlds to rotate and to change that I would never be able to do. You are holy at your core. I hold on to my truth and I go down my path, and there's also room for yours. This gets revealed even more when we get to the light of the tzaddik. Whoever merits to get the light of a tzaddik inside you, that they reveal by themselves this idea of Galgal Chozer Ba'olam. That you see it in every single one of them, the truth. The tzaddikim, they include inside of their souls all the souls of Israel. And everybody that comes up to them, they're able to see their precious, priceless root in a lofty place. And if you get that light of the tzaddik inside of you, you're able also to look at other people and to see that Dari Mala, the people that live up above, they know that they don't know anything about Hashem. They know they have no idea at all about what's true and what's not. The Dari Mata, those that live down below, that it appears that they're very, very far from Hashem, they show that they're really the closest. They show that they're really the closest. You have to have patience, not to speak about anybody. You have to be careful. You have to be calm. You have to be aware that it might be that the person that's not doing any mitzvot, that's very far away, that's having an extremely hard time, but he's fighting. He's fighting to be close. He's fighting to try to get better. He might be closer than the biggest people in the world. That it's a given that they were born into the system, that they've never done anything wrong in their life. And from here we get to the secret of tshuva and rectification of Lashon HaRa, of the sin of Lashon HaRa. V'hine That person in the beginning, that they didn't appreciate his opinion, they didn't accept his opinion, all of a sudden he became great. All of a sudden he's like Darei Mala, he's like those that live up above. And we have questions on the people that were, how did you have such questions on a person like this? V'tohim ala rishonot. We have questions in the beginning. B'charata demeikara. You regret it at your core. Keitzad zilzelu bo be'avar. How could they disrespect such a person like this in the past when they spoke Lashon HaRa about him? And now we can say, like we have tshuva from Ahava, right? That the idea of tshuva from Ahava, when a person comes back to Hashem because of love to Hashem, so all of his zdonot, all of his intentional sins, nefchim l'schuyot, they become merits, they become things that brought him closer. So too, same thing with Torah. Same thing when you come to learn Torah from this way. You're coming to learn Torah in order to overcome your Lashon HaRa. It's all galgal chozer ba'olam. All the secret of the rotation of the world. That now you're going to get the lights, the sanctity of the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah. That everything that you saw in the back and previously as negative, as tainted, as going away from the truth, now you're able to see Ora Zot Torah. That light that I look down on, that is Torah. Galgal chozer ba'olam. I do tshuva out of love, and I go back and I realize everything I said bad about that person, now I can see the light in that Torah. Now I can see how it illuminates it. B'ezrat Hashem, may we all merit to purify our tongue, to know that there are different opinions. There is more than one way we can approach the Torah. And even if I don't agree with another person's path, it's still a path. It's still a path. It's still a way and a valid way to connect to Hashem. I stay true to my path and what I know to be true to me, and I also respect the other, and God forbid to never speak bad about him. Because the second I do that, there's nearly no way of coming back. B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, may we all have clean tongues and know the secret of the Dreidle. That the Dreidle is spinned from up above to teach us that even when it feels like we're the ones getting things done here, and there's processes going on in our life that we're in charge of, we have to have emunah and believe and know that everything is being spinned from up above for our ultimate good. And that's the mindset that we want to go into. B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. Chanukah Sameach.